This episode contains adult themes and is not appropriate for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, the world. This is They Will Kill, a true crime podcast. I am Courtney Eck.
And I'm Sadie Eck.
And you're going to have to excuse the melodic, oh, that was a good one, melodic pug snores on my lap because Edie is getting a special mommy night tonight because my pug hasn't gotten enough attention this week. And I'm a weird person who applies human emotion to dogs. So,
yeah, I think we all do.
I know, especially little Edie. So, please excuse this pug snores, and also please excuse the... It's just going to get louder and louder.
You just gave her permission.
I know. I'm petting her too, so she's purring. Also, please excuse the pounding rain on my roof. I'm glad it's Sadie's night to tell this story because I can mute myself, because otherwise it'd be a full-blown disaster. The good news is we have a special story tonight because it was written by our dear friend and frequent editor / collaborator, Megan Glenn. So fucking thank you, Megan. She's one of the smartest, funniest, best people we know. And we're so happy to integrate her into the podcast. And it also could not have come at a better time because this week was bowl hockey.
With a capital B.
With a capital hockey. And had it were not for Megan, I'd be dead right now and the podcast would be canceled and I would have probably found some way to ruin Sadie's life too.
My life's already ruined. I'm just kidding.
So thank you, Megan.
Yeah, and thank you, Megs.
I cannot wait to hear what she came up with.
This is the attempted murder-suicide of Issy and Kelli Stapleton.
Holy shit.
Matt and Kelli Stapleton met in the early 90s while attending Kalamazoo College. Kelli graduated in 1995, and the two were married a year later. Both grew up in large families and had dreams of making one of their own, at one time planning to have 6 children. But in 2000, the couple decided to stop after having a son and 2 daughters when their middle child, Isabel, who goes by Issy, was diagnosed with autism when she was only 18 months old. However, this change in plans did not at first stop the Stapletons from achieving their small-town, family-centered dream life in Alberta, Michigan. Kelli was content raising the children while Matt worked as the principal, head athletic director, and football coach at the high school in nearby city of Frankfort, where the front pages of the local newspapers were dominated by high school football scores. Family friend Lisa Stevie says, quote, "They were the king and queen of Frankfurt. When Matt walked into a party or in a parade, it was like the mayor had entered."
Mm-hmm. I know the type.
Mm-hmm. Kelli was all too happy to fall into the, quote, Mrs. Coach role, attending all the field trips, leading fundraising efforts, and as some put it, quote, being ostentatiously maternal. The proud wife and mom brought Issy to every football game and event and had requested that her elementary school assign older kids to help Issy with lunches and recess, a job Kelli described as a, quote, position of honor.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, people love her or they hate her, Matt would say of his wife. Around age 2, following Issy's autism diagnosis, Kelli began her attempt to, quote, fix her daughter. She had come across a book titled Let Me Hear Your Voice, A Family's Triumph Over Autism, that told the story of a seemingly bright and happy baby girl who began losing speech and social skills. This is commonly referred to as regressive autism before the age of 2.
So, did you say she set out to fix her daughter?
Yes.
Like fix her autism?
Yep.
Holy shit.
Yep. It's going to be pretty upsetting, you know.
Yeah, that's already very upsetting. That's all I really need to hear.
Yep. Turns out the whole story, both sides, it's one of those that nobody wins, everybody loses. It's really upsetting. Oh yeah, so she was reading this book. This little girl had lost a lot of her abilities before the age of 2, and this was parallel to Izzy's experience. The book claims that through the use of an intense therapy called applied behavior analysis, or ABA, the young girl was, quote, rescued for the torments of autism. Applied behavior analysis is the psychological science of reinforcing behavior, and when applied in practice to autistic children, has specific goals of teaching actions considered appropriate, quote, for the sake of others' comfort. Examples include making eye contact, smiling, touching the nose, using phrases that are pleasing rather than expressive, all of which can feel pointless, be distracting, or even painful to a child with autism.
Yeah, don't do it. Fuck that. Fuck it so hard.
The foundation of ABA is that if you can make a child respond, quote, normally to everyday cues, quote, their brain will eventually change until it works the way you want.
I'm so mad right now.
So I think that I did look into more of the history of ABA and what is it now for children with autism. And I think with a lot of therapies, it really depends on the therapist, on their background, on their education. ABA can be really helpful for things like violent behaviors. It can be helpful for teaching children how to dress themselves or stay out of traffic, or so for big things that are important to keep the child safe, or to make their life easier for themselves. It can be super helpful. But the idea that you need to fix the autistic child and make so that you will feel more comfortable is obviously super duper problematic.
Yes.
Right. So I think that I don't want to just say the ABA and all around is terrible and awful, because I don't think it is. And it sounds like it's really helped families and autistic people. There was quite a few blogs and comments and things that I read from people with autism that have said that this therapy really improved their lives.
Well, and I mean, ultimately, we're all taught the things that we're taught to make other people comfortable.
Right.
Right? You know, it's like you behave because other people don't like it when you don't behave.
Right.
So, I get it, and I can see how, we want to be better. We want to fit into society. We want people to like us, and so it's helpful to learn behaviors that help us do that. But
as long as it's not causing us psychological harm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. If it's fundamental to who you are, and you're being forced to hold it in and change it. I mean, it's just like, being gay, just anything else.
Exactly
it's like,
right.
You can't force somebody to just not be who they are completely because it makes you uncomfortable.
Right.
And it definitely sounds like that I could definitely see how it would go down that path in a very dark and fucking devastating way. So please tell me everything.
Yeah. And I think at this point in the relationship, Izzy she had autism, but wasn't, harming herself or doing anything super crazy or destructive that would need to be fixed. I'm using the quotes.
Right.
Yeah. Besides the fact that such intense obedience training can hinder a child's ability to think for themselves, quote, ABA has been highly criticized by the autistic community and their families for how it is to turn into abuse, as it focuses very much on complete obedience and more often than not ignores the subject's feelings, anything between discomfort to panic. At the time Kelli began researching ABA, there was little proof available that the therapy was effective. The main resource was a study done by the man who developed it, which is super problematic.
Mm-hmm.
He claimed that of 19 preschool-aged children subjected to ABA, 9 made rather notable progress.
So what's that called? The number of
Subjects?
Yes, the number of subjects. His pool, we'll say. I know that's not the exact right word that I'm looking for. Was 19.
19.
Yeah,
not even
publish
half.
That. Publish it. Mm-hmm. Give the guy a prize.
Nobel Prize. Yep.
Follow it to the golden damn rule.
Yep. And that was all it took to convince Kelli that not only was this the right path for her daughter, she was working against a deadline of 3 years. If ABA...
How old is the kid again? How old is Izzy?
2. She's 2.
Uh-huh.
If ABA was to be successful, it usually happened before the age of 5. Kelli thought it best to send her other 2 children, McEwen and Ainsley, to daycare or to the homes of relatives so that the entire day could be devoted to teaching Issy, rewarding her with prizes for a nose touch or fulfilling a request in exchange for eye contact. Because she'd often have to repeat herself over and over again, Kelli would find herself pleading with Issy by the end of the day, quote, "Dear God, touch your nose. Your whole future depends on this."
Oh my God.
Kelli herself admitted that her relationship with her middle child began to feel robotic and unnatural. Quote, "ABA can be disorienting for parents because it's entirely mechanistic, not psychological or emotional." But still, she couldn't let go of the hope that the therapy would take. She even stayed up late the night before Izzy's 5th birthday, determined that she still had one day left to, quote, "wake up to a miracle."
What?
Yeah.
Oh no, that's so weird and
No,
arbitrary.
it's so sad. I know.
Oh my God, the level of stress and anxiety that had to induce in both of them.
Yes. Yep.
And just because she wanted her to make eye contact. Like,
Yeah.
who the fuck cares? Let it go.
I know. You know, as I found myself, and I think as we go into the story more, you're going to have a lot more sympathy for Kelli, for the mom.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but stop and think a lot about my own urges as a mother, and how it's nearly impossible, I think, for all of us to get out of this, like, what are other people going to think, and how are they going to fit in, and what's it going to mean, and if they're not this, or if they look like that, or, I mean, there's just so much pressure. And she had this expectation of this perfect family, and she's Mrs. Coach, and you know, so it's just like this. And I'm not saying that it's okay by any means, but it's just I can see where that would start. You know.
Oh, for sure. Are you
Yeah.
kidding? Yeah. No, I totally understand where it comes from, and
it's total bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think, like, very broadly, we can say that's fucked. It's fucked that we put that pressure on each other. It's
Right.
just insane.
Well, definitely a good check-in for me to stop caring. You know, let my children be who they are, and like foster that, and not care what other people think so much.
Sadie's oldest has been styling his hair in like kind of this sort of sticky uppy fashion, and I was like, oh my God, I really hope that makes it out into the world, because I just want him to rock the fucking weird hairstyle, you know.
Oh, he loves it. Today, even he goes in the bathroom and he styles his hair. And today, Courtney, it was like part of it was straight down. Like he has this little like pomade sample that we let him have, and it's sticking straight down. The rest of it's sticking straight up, and he was so excited to show his Zoom classmates.
Oh my God.
Yep, and he just went to his first little t-ball practice tonight, and he was disappointed that the hair wasn't sticking like it was this morning.
I love him so much. He's such a little renegade. Just keep it up, dude.
I know. I hope he can.
I know, me too. I know. I hope the world doesn't smush it in him. I don't think so, man. He's Leo, Aries. He is full fire.
So far, he doesn't give any fucks.
No, the world's just not prepared for.
So it should be noted that years after Kelli was practicing ABA with Issy, quote, independent research groups have verified that the therapy does in fact reliably abate autism symptoms in a small subset of children, although it's impossible to tell which child will respond from the outset.
Sure, yeah.
Though Issy showed some improvement in communication and learning skills, ABA was not the miracle Kelli had wished for. As Issy approached middle school, she began to act out through acts of aggression. Let me be clear that aggression and violence are not symptoms of autism.
Right.
But because an autistic child generally has trouble communicating their needs, the two can show up together out of frustration.
Especially when they've been subjected to 3 years of mental torture.
Well, and this is even more. Yeah, so she's now getting into middle school. And they've been doing ABA her whole life, since she was 2.
God, she's a time bomb.
Mm-hmm. If a child is prone to aggression, he or she might become hard to control around puberty. The kids are bigger, and when they're enraged, seem to have a superhuman, adrenaline-fueled strength.
Mm-hmm.
At age 11, Issy attacked her mother in the car. Kelli was forced to pull off the road and called Matt for help. While they waited for him to arrive on the scene, Kelli was knocked unconscious by her daughter and had to be taken to the emergency room.
Wow.
Kelli and Matt described the next 3 years as focused on, quote, avoiding an ass whooping from their middle daughter.
Wow.
Quote, her pupils became dilated, her skin gets clammy, and Elvis has left the building.
Mm-hmm.
Think of the scariest movie you know, of like a demon possession, the intense rage embodied in a sweet little girl.
Mm-hmm. You and I know exactly what that looks and feels like.
Yep. I've thought about that a lot too, working in the group home, and had some really violent, one in particular, really violent child who hit puberty and got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
It was terrifying. And I had...
Well, he was just the sweetest, yummiest kid.
Mm-hmm.
And the switch would flip and he was gone. Gone. It was terrifying.
Yes.
And he had superhuman strength. He would throw the fridge, the refrigerator, you guys. It
was terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember feeling stuck in an abusive relationship, and I only had to do shifts. My job was to just go there for 8 hours,
right,
and hope I didn't get the shit beat out of me.
Yeah,
and I got to go home. To have that fear constantly as a mom with your child that you love.
Mm-hmm. But also, guess what? Don't mentally torture your child, and your child might not develop rage.
Yeah, I couldn't. I also tried to find. I looked in to see if there's a correlation. Like, could ABA cause aggression? And I couldn't find anything. That I don't know if that's been looked at, but I wonder. I'm sure that it builds up some frustration for sure. But I just was curious.
When you approach it like that, if you use behavioral, you and I did that in the group home, trying to redirect behavior or model good behavior, and done in a way that's patient and appropriate, it's lovely. You gain trust and it works. But if you are intensely in a child's face for 8 hours a day, demanding this thing of them, they're going to be have so much rage and so much aggression. And then if they're not neurotypical children and don't have the skills to express that, or which is part of the problem, it's just this horrible vacuum of awfulness. And so that might not necessarily be the therapy in itself, but if you approach a therapy like that with anybody, they're going to snap. Yes.
So in September 2012, September 3rd to be exact, Kelli started the blog called The Status Whoa, which is still available to access. In person, she would downplay to friends and family her battle wounds from Izzy's violent acts, but online she found not only an outlet to express her uncensored feelings of desperation and hopelessness that might otherwise be considered taboo, but also a sympathetic audience. The blog acquired over 4,000 followers. Many were parents with autistic children of their own. In her second entry titled Going to the Dead Banger's Ball, Kelli begins the post with, quote, I have yet to meet anyone who is as excited about dying as I am.
What?
She follows with, let me just say that I am not suicidal. That is something completely different, and I don't want to freak anyone out. The post then goes on to talk about how she cannot die because she has to make sure her, quote, daughter that is significantly disabled with autism is first prepared for life without her. And in order to do that, Kelli estimated that it would require about $5 million. She even jokingly lists the things she could do to raise such funds: internet porn, a Ponzi scheme, a reality show. The post is concluded with a dark final thought, quote, so the irony is I want to die. I'll never be able to earn enough to die.
What the fuck?
No.
I'm finding it very hard to be sympathetic to her. Just FYI. You can be team sympathy. I am not there yet.
In November, Kelli posted an entry titled Domestic Abuse and Why I Choose to Live with My Abuser. This is the exact post in its entirety. Quote, I'm smart enough to know that I'm a victim of domestic abuse. I also I'm also smart enough to know that I can leave at any moment, so why do I stay? Love. Isn't that always the answer? I've been bruised from head to toe, knocked unconscious, suffered injuries that were visible and others that weren't. I've had to make decisions about going out in public because how my face looked and what to wear to best cover my bruises and contusions. I've had a bank close my account because my signature never matched my signature card, but it doesn't if your fingers are broken, strained, and sprained. I don't like to be hit. It hurts me physically and it hurts my feelings. I know my abuser loves me. I also know my abuser will kill me, but I still can't leave. So now what? I live. I always wanted to write a book, so I did. I'm learning to play the guitar. I would like to write songs too, so I will. There isn't any reason to put it off, is there? I hope... I know. I hope the hitting will stop. I hope I don't get killed in front of my children, Q and Ainsley. If I am killed, I hope I don't get revived by some well-meaning EMT or ER doctor. I would hate to have to die like that twice. I wear a DNR bracelet, I do not resuscitate, and have paperwork filed at the hospital, but this remains a huge concern of mine. There was a day recently when my abuser was really out of control. The blows were coming and coming and coming. I was seeing stars and unfortunately lost my footing. Now I was on the floor, prone and in real trouble. I reached in my pocket for my phone and was able to dial 911 before the phone was thrown out of my hands. When the officer arrived, I was so relieved. I had survived it. It was, thank God in heaven, over. Just like that, calm replaced the savage beast. The police officer looked around the room and became hostile to me. Quote, "Why did you call the police?" I looked at her with my eye, the one that wasn't swollen shut, and apologized for calling her. My mistake, clearly. So why do I stay? Because my abuser is my autistic daughter. She is now much larger than me and has no understanding of the damage she does. There doesn't seem to be a way to stop her, nor is there anyone who can help us. We've tried.
I hate her so much. I really hate her. It's like I live with this snake, and every day I take the snake and I poke it and I push it and I make it do a bunch of non-snake things, and it keeps biting me. And I don't understand why the snake just fucking stop.
Yeah.
Also, you're a mom. Also, don't talk to your child that way. Also, that's morbid and fucking weird. And if your kid gets a hold of it, that's devastating.
Yeah. Yep. It's definitely
Or your other
problematic.
kids? Like, what? Why? Oh my God.
I know.
Attention seeking. I know it's hard. I'm definitely not downplaying the struggles of having a child, period, let alone a child with autism, but that shit's weird. That's dark. That's dark-sided.
Not everyone in Kelly's life was a status quo fan, including Courtney. I'm not either.
Number one least favorite blog of all time.
Many of Matt's family members saw it as overly dramatic and attention-seeking.
Oh.
Their critical opinions were fueled when Kelly also began doing local TV interviews to bring awareness to raising a child with severe aggressions. She would say outright that her daughter was going to kill her, but even before Kelly started her blog, she was never a welcomed member of the incredibly tight Stapleton family. She was criticized from the cleanliness of her home to the way she raised her children. It was not unusual for Matt and the kids to spend Christmas Day at his mother's house while Kelly stayed home or visited a friend.
What?
Yeah. In early December 2012, Issy, now 13, close in height and more than 20 pounds heavier than Kelly, attacked her mother in the kitchen. Kelly was found unconscious on the floor by her youngest daughter, Ainsley, and had to once again be taken to the hospital where she woke up feeling nauseous. Following this incident, she began showing symptoms of a concussion, forgetting words, repeating herself, and experiencing migraines. On December 17th, Kelly took to her blog with a seemingly optimistic update. 2 months prior, the Stapletons had visited a Kalamazoo facility just 3 hours away from home that specialized in treating autistic children with, quote, problem behavior. Quote, I cannot even express the relief I felt in speaking with someone who understood what was happening to me, our family, and specifically our daughter, Kelly wrote. But again, the family ran into yet another roadblock. The Great Lakes Center for Autism Treatment and Research was not covered by their insurance nor their local mental health agency. At a cost of around $17,000 a month for a recommended treatment period of anywhere between 3 to 15 months, the family simply couldn't afford it. And Megan wrote, who could?
I was just going to say, who could?
Right.
Like, 5 people, 5 parents of autism can afford this center, so let's just open it right up.
$17,000 a month.
That's a lot of money, if you guys weren't aware.
Kelli goes on to explain that not only was this miracle facility not financially feasible, the waiver they received to fund the home staff that assisted Issy, quote, almost every waking hour was threatened to be taken away if she received the residential treatment.
Why?
Because system's totally fucked up. God forbid you give somebody too much help, Courtney. That would just be terrible.
I know.
However, the center had just implemented a new 30-day assessment program, so new that Issy was the first child admitted into it. Better yet, it was in fact covered by the waiver. And although Kelli was told that without a source of funding, Issy would be dismissed at the end of 30 days, regardless of the findings during her assessment, she decided it was better than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
In mid-January of 2013, Issy began her 30-day assessment. In the first 3 weeks, her behaviors came through. She injured 3 staff members, broke 2 employees' iPhones, and destroyed all of her personal property. Still, the staff insisted that they were not only able to identify the cause of Issy's aggression, but that with more time, they would be able to help her.
Mm-hmm.
Kelli wrote in her blog, what they learned was that Issy can't tolerate being told no or not being able to get what she wants. If someone's gained some reward every time for a particular behavior, the behavior will persist. If suddenly the reward stops coming, it's likely that the person or animal will not immediately give up the behavior. Instead, they'll try it again and again, harder, faster, more empathetically. Mm-hmm. It's a burst of activity. If the reward still doesn't come, eventually the behavior will extinguish or become extinct. Mm-hmm. So the burst of behavior before extinction of the behavior is called an extinction burst. We can expect these behaviors to get worse before they go away completely. The center made a recommendation of 8 months. Now remember, we're talking $765 a day for this place.
Right.
And only those original 30 days were covered.
Right.
So when the time was almost up, the Michigan Education Special Services Association stepped in to offer funding for an additional 2 weeks.
Uh-huh.
With the help of a nurse case manager, the Stapletons were granted several more extensions through the association, but the most touching assistance came in the form of community fundraisers and donations. So shout out to the kind people that brought Team Issy shirts, handmade tutus, woven bracelets, or just straight up sent the family checks.
Right on.
They were able to collect enough money to keep Issy in treatment for 7 months.
Nice! Yay! Yay! Yeah. I love when we do good things as
a
human species.
Issy's treatment was centered around a token economy system in which she would earn tokens for things like having good hands and feet, which is basically not hitting or kicking the staff. Mm-hmm. That could then be redeemed after 30 minutes of uninterrupted desirable behavior for things she enjoyed at the, quote, Issy store. Mm-hmm. Kelli was at first upset when she learned about the center's behavior plan. After all, she herself had tried to implement a similar reward system when Issy was younger, and it had failed spectacularly. Mm-hmm. But eventually she realized that this was a far more structured therapy than the loose tactics she had tried.
Yeah, consistency is motherfucking key.
Yep, and most importantly, it was backed by a full team of professional behaviorists.
Yes, there you go.
A few months into treatment, Kelli was thrilled to share with her readers Issy's progress, posting a chart that had been provided by the center. During week 1, Issy's reported to have had around 650 instances of aggression. By week 11, she had less than 25.
Yes.
By all accounts, it seemed that Issy was finally moving towards becoming the daughter Kelli always wanted her to be.
And she did, and that's where the story ends, and Issy is very well adjusted and is an engineer.
Yep. Kelli had been visiting her daughter once a week at the residential facility, but it wasn't until June that she had her first, quote, hands-on visit, one that she had been working with Issy's behaviorists to prepare for. Shortly after she arrived and settled in next to Izzy to work on some coloring, accompanied by Izzy's behaviorist and another male staff member, things went horribly wrong.
Shocking. You mean when your like torture abuser shows up,
Yeah.
you kind of lose focus for a moment?
So there is video of this incident on Kelly's June 11th blog post, and I would suggest that y'all go check it out because it gives you a good indication of
The
what
dynamic.
like how violent Izzy could be.
Yeah.
In the video, you see Izzy beating the shit out of 3 grown-ass adults.
Nice one, Megan.
It starts with her pulling Kelly's hair and escalates into hitting. And not just pulling her hair, but like pulling
Yanking,
her hair.
Yeah.
Kelly tries to take herself out of the attack and retreats into a corner as the 2 staff members try to calm Izzy down. Moments later, Izzy grabs a hold of the behaviorist's hair and almost pulls her to the ground. And again, it's like watching it, you wonder how she doesn't just pull the hair out. She's pulling so hard.
Right.
She also retreats into the corner with Kelly, the behaviorist does.
Yep.
We then see Izzy knock over a desk and charge at the 2 women. The video ends with Izzy and the male staff member sitting on the ground, and though he seems to be the least targeted in the video, Kelly posted pictures of his scratched head and arms. Both employees were reportedly bleeding after the incident. Still, Kelly clung to the belief that the Great Lakes Behavior Plan was the answer to eliminating Izzy's aggressions. Her hopes were furthered by daily charts illustrating her daughter's progress. But as more hands-on training sessions were done, Izzy's violent behavior spiked, a result that was completely expected when beginning to transition back to family life.
Oh, for sure.
The Stapletons' insurance company, however, took this to mean that the treatment was no longer working and decided to pull funding at the end of August.
No!
Kelly's first instinct was to fight, but she reconsidered when she realized bringing Izzy home meant that she could have her enrolled in the upcoming school year. And from that point on, Kelly turned all her focus onto doing just that. Izzy would attend the same school where Matt was principal. She'd have a personal aide with her at all times who would learn and reinforce the behavior plan. She'd get to participate in gym and art with the rest of the students, and then work on academics in a quiet room with the aide. Sounds like the best case scenario, right? Wrong.
Well, so this is her mom that just decided that this was the new thing she was going to do?
No, so she realized that she could enroll Izzy in school, and they could, it's like a IEP or whatever, they could come up with a plan for Izzy, and, you know, these are the things that they could do for her at school.
Right.
Kelly had a major falling out with the district's special education teacher while attempting to teach her the behavior plan. The teacher then went to the superintendent and asked that Matt recuse himself from the decision-making process because of the glaring conflict of interest. One day before Izzy was to return home, the Stapletons were called into a meeting with the superintendent and a representative from the intermediate school district. They were told that Izzy's attendance was a safety concern for the other parents. Even with Matt's highly regarded position at the school, Izzy was not welcome to be a student there. Kelly was beyond devastated.
Yep.
And I tried to find out what the laws are. I'm really surprised to hear that schools can flat out deny children.
I have
Do you
two.
know anything like dealing with the Confidence House?
No,
Did you ever?
because but our kid that we took care of was great in school. He was
Right.
amazing in school. He almost never acted out because it was a safe, consistent environment.
Right.
You know, when he was around people who were safe and consistent, he was so much less likely to act out. So I don't know. I mean, he might have been just young enough at that point. You know, we were in hippie Northern California, so probably more empathy and more resources. But I don't know. Maybe because she had a violent history that they could deny her. I have no idea.
I don't know, but I tried to look it up. Like, how do public schools just flat out refuse? I could see them saying, like, we need to get her more support. Or
Yes,
like,
exactly. Yeah.
you know, but as far as I understand it, I thought it was their obligation
Right.
to
Maybe
accommodate.
maybe she assaulted somebody, another student or something, and so the parents were like, no.
Yeah, I didn't read anything to indicate.
Assaulted my kid. I don't know.
Right. I never read anything to suggest that she ever I mean, it was
assaulted
mostly
by-
towards her mom and then some other adults,
Right.
but like, yeah, I don't know.
Or
Maybe.
had been violent at a party, or, who knows? I don't know.
Right.
Clearly she was well known. They raised enough money to send her
Right. Yeah.
treatment for that long. So,
Yeah.
and it's just so, I mean, we all know this, but people are like, yeah, let's raise money for inner city children. And then they're like, we're going to bus them to your school district. And they're like, oh, hell no. It's like, you don't really want to help them.
Right.
You
I mean,
want
it's
to,
like, no, you have to have
feel
this
like you're
baby.
helping.
Yeah, you have to have this baby. You don't want, okay, well, then give
Right.
me some money
Support.
to feed them. And they're like,
Hell no.
that's on you. You should have been more careful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a whole other
Anyway.
conversation.
I'm just, I think more than any story you've ever told, and Sadie and I grew up, our aunt was the vice president of a company that employed people with disabilities and taught them life skills. It's just been a part of our life, our entire life. And it is a big old fucking hot button for me. So
I know, the whole time I read this, I was like, oh, Courtney's gonna...
it's my thing. I'm a very
so
protective
mad.
person and do not fuck with people. Oof, yeah.
Yeah. So Kelli was beyond devastated by this ruling.
Yep.
Despite the setback, the celebration commenced the next day when the Stapletons went to pick up Issy after 7 months at the center. Kelli had ordered a cake, and her brother and sister decorated with Team Issy signs. They were ready for her to come home, and Issy was ready to be home. For days beforehand, she had been saying things like, quote, Issy comes home on August 30. Issy will go to Frankfurt, Alberta schools. Issy will sleep in Issy's bed. No more Great Lakes. Quote, it was just so good to have her in the car again, Kelli said. The joy of reunion, however, was quickly interrupted, and unfortunately, so were Kelly's hopes of a violent, free future with her daughter. As the family exited the car, Issy hit Kelli. The hit itself was minor compared to previous blows Kelli had absorbed, but she couldn't let it go. 2 days later, Kelli drove herself and her 2 daughters to Matt's high school to use the indoor track as it was raining heavily that day. Out of nowhere, Issy started pulling her mother's hair, escalating to punches to the head until Kelli was on the ground. The only thing her youngest daughter could do was watch in horror until a few bystanders were able to pull Issy away. Kelli was crushed, her fantasy of a, quote, normal family life now completely shattered. Kelli had spent most of Issy's 14 years of life trying to direct her behavior to fit into what Kelli believed was the picture-perfect family life. Her efforts had failed over and over and over again. She felt she had been let down by her insurance company, healthcare service providers, and the school district. She had no support whatsoever from her husband's side of the family, but it was the incident at their track that is believed to be the catalyst that set forth the unfathomable events that followed in the next 2 days. On the evening of Monday, September 2nd, Kelli set about finishing chores around the house. Before her son McEwen went to bed, she told him how proud of him she was, and that, quote, he should always listen to his father. She gave Ainsley a rubber bracelet that read, Remember to Love. Nightly prayers were said, and a short time later, Kelli posted a message on her Facebook that read, quote, My babies are all in bed, new adventures tomorrow. This was not her only online activity, however. Before Kelli went to sleep, she updated her blog with pictures of Issy's homecoming. Sometime later, she wrote a very lengthy post titled, When a Power Player Takes You Down, in which she details what happened when she and Matt tried to enroll Issy in school. She blames herself for ruining everything because she didn't, quote, stroke egos. The post must have been written in the very early hours of Tuesday morning, as it was dated September 3rd, 2013, exactly 1 year after she had started the Status Quo blog, and the last time she herself would be posting to it. Kelli began Tuesday morning by dropping McEwen and Ainsley off at school. She then texted Issy's home aides and told them they had the morning off. Kelli got Issy dressed and explained to her daughter that they were going camping. She packed up the family's 70s van, including a pillowcase from each of her kids' beds, one of Matt's shirts, 2 hibachi grills that she had purchased just a few days earlier, and all the makings for s'mores. She then sent a text to her friend, Lisa Stevie, to let her know that she and Issy were going for a walk in a wooded area where the 2 women had previously gone running.
I don't like where this is going.
Trigger warning for child harm. When they arrived, Kelli got to work setting up the grills and making s'mores. When Issy asked for seconds, Kelli responded with an enthusiastic, quote, "You betcha." Kelli gave her daughter 4 Risperdal, twice that of her usual bedtime dose. Risperdal is classified as an atypical antipsychotic that could be used to treat irritability associated with autism. When Issy was full and sleepy, Kelli arranged the mattress in the back of the van with blankets and the pillowcases. She brought the still smoldering grills inside the van and closed the doors, filling the vehicle with carbon monoxide.
Fuck.
No. Issy liked to list things, and according to Kelli's version of events, quote, they talked about what they might pack on a trip to Florida. Towels, bathing suits, sunglasses. They talked about all their pets. Then they lay down nose to nose, and Kelli said, quote, "I love you, Issy." And Issy said, "I love you, Mommy," which Kelli explained, quote, is a trained response, but I think she means it. They fell asleep. The two had been missing for several hours when Lisa Stevie contacted her ex-husband, who happened to be a police officer, about the text she received from Kelli earlier that morning. Police found the van around 7 p.m. However, the scene they arrived to was not as Kelli would later describe. Quote, Issy was not in the back of the van on a bed, nose to nose with her mother, but strapped in the front seat. Her skin was roasting hot, her throat raw as a hamburger. Her mouth was foaming, and she was unconscious and unresponsive. Kelli was asleep on the mattress in her underwear. Her skin was cooler to the touch, and her carbon monoxide poisoning level was much lower than Issy's, suggesting that she had been in and out of the van a few times. Kelli says she got out once to grab a bag of charcoal, and she doesn't know why her levels were lower, but thinks it might be because she sleeps with her face buried in pillows. Kelli was lucid enough in the ambulance to refuse treatment, telling first responders, quote, she was supposed to be in heaven. A story she repeated to nurses and child protective services. Issy was not so lucky. The 14-year-old girl was in a coma for 4 days. Matt was told that her brain scan did not look promising and that the only option was to remove her ventilator. The hope was that this would, quote, jumpstart her brain. The risk was that it could, quote, leave her a vegetable or unable to breathe at all. After 60 agonizing minutes, Matt made the decision to remove the ventilator. Slowly, Issy started to breathe on her own.
Get it, Issy.
Shortly after regaining consciousness, Issy, out of the blue, said, "Grandpa Stapleton?" Matt's father, whom Issy had barely spent any time with, had passed recently. Matt's mother asked Issy if she had seen him, to which she informed the room that the two had been coloring together.
Whoa.
I know. This confirmed for Matt's family that she was a Stapleton, quote, proof that she belonged to them. Okay, that's very sweet and everything, but guess what, you assholes?
Yeah, you fucking
She belongs to
people.
you from the
God.
fucking get-go. I know.
Ugh, this is what we do. This is what we do to each other. It's so fucked. It's
I know. Like this child, this precious child had to almost die and see her dead grandpa
oh my God.
before her asshole family, half of her family, would accept her. I just can't even.
The pathology of this family is so typical and horrifying. I mean, this is like any family of, I would say, half of American families are teetering on the edge of this. Wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
just one thing goes wrong. You have an autistic kid, fucking hibachi grills a flamin'. Get a grip, America. Get a fucking grip. Love your children. Let them be who they are. Or go fuck yourselves. Like, it's the worst.
Yeah, and I mean, we could talk about it more at the end, but clearly we need to have more support for families. I mean, we've talked about that 1,000 times. So I think that's where, when I have sympathy for Kelli, it's that parenting is so hard. And parenting a child with like super aggression and lots of needs, I can't imagine.
No.
But it shouldn't be all on Kelli, and we need to fix this fucking system that's so broken. you know.
Also, yeah, don't try to quote unquote fix your child. Getting
Yeah.
support for your
There's
child to
that too.
be your child's own self is
Yes.
one thing.
Yes.
To
Right.
let your child express themselves however they do. And sometimes that's antisocial and sometimes it's aggressive or,
Yeah.
difficult. That's one
Yes.
thing. But to set your sights on changing the
Miracles.
entire
Yeah.
makeup of your child because your fucking mother-in-law is a bitch, that's on you, honey.
Yes.
That is your own shit. I cannot. That is unforgivable.
Yes.
Like, grow up,
Yes.
So-
100.
God.
Oh, God.
Oh, get off your fucking blog and find a new family.
Yes. Seriously. So Kelli was arrested and charged with attempted murder and held in Benzie County Jail, only 8 miles from the Stapleton family home. Her trial date was set, get ready, for September 3rd. Megan said, "Nothing I read made a big deal out of this. Why?"
What is September 3rd?
Well, it's the day that the blog started. It was the day the blog ended.
Oh.
Now it's the date of her trial.
Shit. I like it.
Yeah. So in the months leading up to her trial, Kelly's defense attorney was preparing an insanity defense. That all went out the window when Kelli agreed to appear on the Dr. Phil show. She had actually written to the show in 2012 in hopes of telling her story, but it was only after her horrendous crime that they showed any interest in talking to her, of course.
Of course.
When Kelly's lawyer found out she had gone through with the interview after she had been advised against it, her counsel asked her to be removed from the case. That wouldn't be necessary, however, right before the trial was to begin, Kelli pleaded guilty to felony child abuse.
Good.
Kelli actually had supporters asking for leniency leading up to her sentencing. Friends continued to insist that she was a loving and, quote, wonderful mother who never yelled or lost her patience and baked cookies for the children after school. Throughout the proceedings, it was revealed that she had been assaulted as a child by her brother. The concussions and repeated blows to the head from Issy left her more vulnerable. Quote, forensic psychiatrist Carol Lieberman, who examined Stapleton in July, testified that Stapleton was suffering from post-traumatic stress and bipolar disorders and was legally insane when attempting the murder-suicide.
Mm-hmm.
These findings did not stop the judge from sentencing Kelli to 10 to 22 years, saying just before handing down the sentence, quote, civilization depends on parents not killing their children. Burn.
Snap. Yes.
Kelli responded to her court-ordered fate by stating, quote, I am not worthy to speak her name. She is not the monster I am. She is serving her time at the Huron Valley Prison for Women. She will be eligible for parole in 2023.
Good. The most good riddance of any good riddance I've ever given.
Right.
Good riddance.
So Matt divorced Kelli shortly after the incident. On the stand, he stated that he would never be okay with what happened to his daughter. Under no circumstances was it okay to murder a child. Oh,
Sorry.
right. No. True, dude. True.
Oh, thank you for clarifying.
Worried that he sounded too harsh on his ex-wife, he followed up with a statement saying he and his kids still loved Kelli and that she was in fact the target of Issy's aggressive behavior and that there was no way she would have committed this monstrous act if she were in her right mind. The question he struggled most with was when Kelli purchased the hibachi grills. She insisted it was the Sunday after the incident at the track, but a receipt shows the date being the day before they picked Issy up from Great Lakes. Mm-hmm. Quote, if that's true, then Issy never had a chance, he said. It will come as no surprise that Matt's family was very outspoken about their thoughts on Kelli after she committed the crime. Eileen Stapleton, Matt's mother, said, quote, the truth is, Kelli didn't want Issy anymore. She made it look like it was unselfish and loving, but it was not unselfish and loving. If she wanted to kill herself, she could have been dead. She loves herself too much. The family also made sure to openly advocate for Issy. Matt's sister, Sarah Ross, says, quote, Issy was a girl with desires and plans and even teenage crushes. She liked marching bands and Taylor Swift and Hannah Montana. She liked to hold cats and have her nails done and talk about jeans. Before she went to the Great Lakes Center, Issy wrote a list of 12 things she wanted to do when she came back, including Wolf's Boat and Manistee County Fair. This is missing in every media story, every article. It's all about Kelli's safety, but someone needs to say that Izzy's life was worth something. So what do you think? Not you necessarily, Courtney, to our dear readers. Was Kelli also a victim? A mom that endured years of physical violence, unsupportive in-laws, multiple systems that refused to help her? A husband who no doubt was working more than he was home, and she snapped? As difficult as Kelli's life was as a mother to Issy, one thing we know for sure is Izzy's life is valuable and deserves to be lived fully. A year after her attempted murder, Issy had regained her short-term memory and was able to walk more steadily. As of August 2020, she was reportedly still in the custody of her father and continued to show improvement behavior-wise.
Good.
And that is the attempted murder-suicide of Issy and Kelli Stapleton.
Whoa. Man, Megan, coming out with a fucking bang. That was excellent.
Wasn't it excellent?
Yes. Very good.
Yep.
Very, very good.
Yep. This was a story I'd had on my list. One of the cases I wanted to cover pretty much from the get-go. Mm-hmm. And I would pull open the articles and I would start writing, and I just could not get it together. And then I would just stop and move on to something else. And so I asked Megan, I said, would you want to look at this? And boy, did she.
Yeah, man, I'm so glad your guts knew that was not your story. That one belonged to Megan.
She told it beautifully, so thank you, Megan. So beautifully,
yes.
Yep, she's going to help us not hit total burnout and be able to keep producing lots of stories, so we really appreciate it.
Fuck yeah. That was so good.
Yep.
And I do think that the mother was a victim, but I think she was a victim of this thing that we're all a victim of and that we're all becoming very aware of. And you can call it like white supremacy, or, you know, I think ultimately it's this like weird fucking pathology that we all have that makes us want to control each other and makes us give a shit about what other people think to the point that you would hibachi van your daughter to death. Like, I think she was... I don't think it takes a lot for us to break each other, you know, when you really think about it. And I think if you have that much pressure from that many people in your life,
and from
you
yourself,
know, I say like grow up, yeah, but it is a horrible position to be in. I just generally, I think people need to grow the fuck up, and I think you need to. I mean, I did it, you know, like. Move away. I know it's not just that simple for a lot of people who are being abused, you know, by their families or who grow up in these situations that don't speak to their own truths. But please, you guys, please allow yourself to be yourself. Please allow other people to be themselves and lift them up. Like, doing that to another human being, I think, is the worst thing you can do. You're just trying to break their spirit, and that's the original sin. You know, like, just kill me to death rather than like slowly torture me into being something that I'm not. That is the cruelest thing you can do, and it's like the antithesis of life, right? The whole reason we're here is to be our individual selves, and to do that, something like that, to somebody, and to have that be done to you, it's just like it's the worst.
I think, like I said a little earlier, my sympathy for Kelli is that understanding of how challenging my own motherhood journey has been, and how, like, in all, my children are nearly perfect. I mean, they're not really, but they're lovely human beings, and I struggle every day. Every single day I struggle, and not to the point where I would want to hurt them, but it's hard. It is so hard, and I can't, you know, like, if I put myself in her shoes, whether it was her own doing or not, like, the year after year after year after year, and the mental, like, the place she ended up mentally, and doesn't seem like she ever got help for herself necessarily. I don't know that for sure, but I can only imagine, you know, like, there are days through COVID that I'm like, if I wasn't, I mean, I don't know. It's like the get a pack of smokes and never come home, and like those thoughts go through your head.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't. Yeah, it's hard.
Yes.
And I adore my children. So anyway.
And you have a relatively supportive family. I mean, you think about like Meghan Markle, for example.
Yes,
you know,
right?
Where
Yes.
like, everybody is after you, and you like consider killing yourself because it's too much pressure. You know, it's just too much for one person. So yes, on that level, I am sympathetic of her, but I would just hope that you would be like, fuck you, go to hell, mother-in-law. You know, like, I don't care if I don't get to go to Christmas dinner. I'm going to let my daughter be herself, and there's nothing you can do about it. And instead, she just, like,
crumbled.
Was so desperate for that approval that she ruined her child and everyone and everything around her.
Right. Well, and had she wanted to really die, Kelli, she wouldn't have told her friend where she was going.
Yep.
She would not have gotten out of the van.
Nope.
She was just waiting. She was, I mean, it really does seem like she was hoping that Issy would die.
Yep.
That she would be saved.
Yep.
And that she would do some time in prison, but then
she'd be ultimately a sympathetic character. And to write it up with nose to nose, I love you, Mom. Fuck that. 100% really did not happen. Yeah. Yeah, it's just so awful. When you use it to fuel your own narcissism, double whammy, double awful. And that's why I lack the sympathy for her with the family stuff, because she's no angel. Right. You know, she's feeding into that too. She's playing right along with it and like feeding into the fuckery. So, you know what I mean?
Is that like, the technical term?
Yes, making other moms feel less than because, you know, just stop it. You guys stop it.
Yep. For sure. And she did have support. You know, like I think like there's still like a systemic lack of support, but the community rallied and managed to get you know, 17,000 times 7 together for her, and she had home aides, and she had, you know, like, so there was the system available to her, she utilized. And so anyway, it's a toughie, man. Yeah,
it's a goodie. I loved it.
Good.
I loved it and hated it. I'm so glad Izzy's still alive.
Me too.
One small redemption.
I know, right?
I hope she's doing well without her terrible mom. You know, I mean, we've seen it firsthand. Yes. You know, I mean, it really is true. If you show these children consistency and love and build their trust. So, be kind.
I know.
Take care of each other. And,
you know what I miss?
Names.
Well, I miss that, but I miss our party that we had over the weekend, last weekend.
God.
Can I just,
can
we talk about it for a second?
Yes.
So we had our patron
party.
And my anxiety really likes to tell me that everything's going to be awful all the time. And not you guys ever, but me mostly.
Right.
And that it's not going to be fun, I'm not going to do a good job, and it's going to be boring, and nobody's going to enjoy themselves, right?
Right.
And I talked myself out of it. Thankfully, I'm in therapy, and that helps me a lot. Yeah. And I had the best time. I had so much fun. I could have stayed all night. We used up our full 2 hours or whatever the program we used let us. You guys are beautiful. You're funny. You're kind. You're interesting and smart. You're all of the things we know that you are, but to be able to actually interact with you and like have those conversations and to, it really felt to me like we all really wanted to continue to stay together, and that just like I'm gonna probably cry. I haven't felt that sense of community since COVID.
Yeah.
And probably even before that. Like I mean, like becoming a mom has been really isolating for me, moving to Indiana from Portland. So it's been a really long time, and I cherish it.
It's beautifully said.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, as adults, it's hard to have those moments where you like walk into a party and you're like, oh, this is going to be fucking fun. And you look around and everyone's vibing each other. It was totally that.
Yes.
Everybody
it really was
connecting and laughing and like immediately joking and like supporting each other and saying hilarious things and like giving each other shit, even though they, you know, it's just, it was really beautiful to behold. And I feel very, very honored to have been a part of it. And, you know, we were talking about on the at the party, kind of the size of this podcast and, what the future holds and stuff. And I said, Sadie and I haven't sort of energetically released the podcast yet as far as like growing in size or something. And part of the reason I think is because it's so nice right now for it to be just us, and I really want to savor it and I really enjoy it. And it's not at all, I didn't really dawn on me in starting a podcast that I would connect with people from all over the fucking world on this level. And it's
like
turned out to be my
legitimately.
favorite part. Yeah. It's definitely turned out to be my favorite part. So thank you guys so much for coming and making it like a fucking blast. Just a really special moment. And we'll definitely do it again soon. Everybody seems to want it. And I know a lot of you couldn't make it. And
we'll play around with the times to make it more accessible to international listeners.
Although Jay, shout out to Jay, up at 2:00 in the fucking morning partying with us.
Won the
Yankees.
the big prize.
Oh yeah, won the major prize.
The grand finale prize. What is it called? Don't know.
Yeah, grand finale prize.
So if you want to be part of the next party, join our Patreon if you haven't already. We try to really make it worth your while.
Yep.
And then you can watch us. Hopefully, I mean, one day I would love to have in-person hangouts, not just Zoom. That's my dream.
It's the dream.
So we'll work our way up to that.
Become a patron.
I promise I won't cry about it anymore today.
Cry-worthy.
It really was.
Cry-worthy. No, it's kind of miraculous. This whole thing has been miraculous. It's been a fucked up year, but also one of the best years ever.
Yep,
thanks
because
to you
of you.
guys. Yep. Also on the chat or on the party, somebody threw out a name and I didn't write it down. So whoever you were, please
Write it down
email
again.
it to me. Yes.
Yeah.
But Dragon Wagon came out of the party. What the fuck, Dragon Wagon? Are you kidding? Which reminds me, I knew a Jacob Mondragon in college, which
that's pretty
was
badass.
a super badass name. Also, we knew. Have I said Gaylord Divine?
Oh God, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. How the fuck did I forget Gaylord Divine? The number one best name of all time.
That's right.
Gaylord Divine was his name.
Yep.
And there's one more. Let me scroll up. Somebody grew up with or knew a woman named Amanda Ram who married someone with the last name Buttkiss. So she went from Amanda Ram to Amanda Buttkiss. Fucking first prize trophy goes to
Amanda Buttkiss.
Amanda Ram hyphenate Buttkiss. Damn it.
Oh. Anything else? We've got some shout outs.
Oh, let's do the shout outs.
Okay.
No,
I know
I'm
that.
ready for burrito, man. I need some burrito in my life.
That's right. All right. Thank you so much to Kristen McKay.
Kristen McKay? Cute. Kristen McCute with a K. With two U's. K-U-U-T with an umlaut probably on top of the two U's. Or maybe just one U. Would that how that work? K-U with an umlaut T.
Sure.
Kristen McCute.
Cute.
I love it.
Thank you so much to Katie C.
Katie. Courtney. I know your last name is Courtney. Don't be shy about it.
Thank you so much to Darcy W.
Darcy wants you to give her the respect she deserves because she's fucking a badass.
I love the name Darcy.
I do too.
Thank you so much to Christy C.
Christy, also Courtney. You guys are family members. Thank you for signing up together. You're probably from New Zealand where Courtney is a common last name. Or
Probably.
Australia. Mm-hmm.
I also like how we have a Kristen, Katie, and a Christy this week. Should all get to know each other.
100%.
Thank you so much to Brandy. Oh, another McKay. Whoa, what's happening?
What? Two McCutes in this crew? Fuck yeah. So so many family members.
So many.
It's a family affair. The Courtneys and the McCutes.
So thank you so much, you guys, for your support. For being so great. For making my life legitimately better every day.
And If you want to look at more stuff about us, go to Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at They Will Kill. Go to our website, theywillkill.com. Fucking email us, theywillkillpodcast@gmail.com.
Rate, review, subscribe. We've got some great ones recently.
Yes.
Keep them coming.
Rolling
please.
in. I love it.
I don't want to jinx us, but we haven't had any bad written reviews in a while. And I'm just sort of like, some days I'm sort of like, come on, let's see what you got. Nope. So I'm not really welcoming that necessarily, but
I
do
know, I
think they're
kind of
pretty
am,
funny.
though. I do get a bit of a thrill from it.
I do too. I'm not
You
gonna
know?
lie. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else? Thank you, AJ Bergans, for your music.
Thank you so much.
And remember,
Do not be a fucking horrible person.
oh, please don't.
Don't.
There's
do
enough
it.
of them out there already.
Oh, man.
Leave the in-laws behind if they're terrible.
Yeah, you don't need them.
Nope. You know what you need?
You got your own money. You're holding your own money, baby. You're worth
That's
it.
right.
Get out of there.
That's right. You just need a little bit of They Will Kill. We'll make everything okay. We're really horrible.
Come to mommies. Come here.
We love you.
We love you, pretty babies. We love you so much.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.